I'd like to start off to introduce our commission members. On the end, we have Joe Chambers, Tyler Riggs, myself, the chairman, Michael Fortune, Brian Marvel, the vice chair, should be linking in via Zoom. And then we have Bob Washburn, who has been approved by the city council as an alternate. That he won't take effect with that until the July meeting being sworn in. So, but I've invited him to sit up with us tonight and listen in and share with us if there's some things. So that's what we have on. Welcome all the members out. I'd like to excuse Bob Perry, who would not be able to make it tonight. And then also the second alternate that was approved by city council, Shelley Nazer, is out of town at a family function and will not be able to be here tonight. But I appreciate everybody else being here and for our agenda items and so forth. And so we'll start off with our Pledge of Allegiance. I've asked Tyler Riggs if he could lead us there, please.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Right. What we want to do is look at approving our minutes. And I got an email from Bob Perry, who had a couple of items. So, a couple of comments. Tyler, it was on page 2 of the minutes, page 2, line 53. And he believed that, I think it says GAB, G-A-B, GAB services. And I think it was GAP. Maybe. So
it's talking about a park, the gap in park service.
Yes, the city is working on GAP services or areas lacking park space. Yeah, okay. So that was the one. And the other is more a comment because if everybody will notice, we have on the agendas now an option so that the public and people can take a look that identify what the responsibilities and duties of the Planning Commission are. They can click on that and see the bylaws and things. And then also, in regards to public comment decorum and public hearing decorum, those items are on the agenda. So as it gets posted, people can look at that and be more aware of things. Bob Perry's comment was, additionally, I think that a reference to the Planning Commission's bylaws, specifically Article 6.5, outlining meeting order and decorum, explains this issue better than what has just been added to the agenda. If we want to address public hearing decorum, then maybe we should reference the Article 6.5. So I'm not sure who worked on that, if that Tyler, if you added those things, I know we asked about.
Yeah, just from last time, just kind of experimenting what you guys want. But yeah. So
maybe would you take that in consideration and look at?
Yeah. I'll do that with the next agenda. I'll take these ones out and put that 6.5 in.
Anybody, any other comments?
Line 104, it references County Boundary Commission, and it was Planning Commission, County Planning Commission. I don't think it makes much difference.
In which one?
Line 104.
County.
Cache County Planning.
Instead of boundary.
Yeah, substitute the word planning for boundary.
Tyler, did you see anything?
Nothing for me.
Joe, that was not the only.
That's the only thing I saw.
Okay. All right, I'll entertain a motion to accept the minutes with those corrections or additions.
So moved. Second.
Okay, the motion carries. And all right, let me get myself caught up. do we have Brian on Zoom? Oh, that's, yeah. Okay, I was just giving him an opportunity to vote if he's there. We'll open now to public comments. This is an opportunity for citizens to express their views on things with the Planning Commission. I think for the two gentlemen here, you really are representing items on the agenda. So unless you have something you'd like to just say that's in general for the city of Providence, I'd ask you to go ahead and wait till your item comes up, if that's okay. Okay. Well, with that being said, do we have any emails, letters, text?
Yeah, I checked at 5 o'clock and did
Nothing there. Okay. All right, we'll close the public comment portion of the meeting. And we have no public hearing scheduled for today. So we will go ahead and move on to item number 1, legislative action. This item is an amended final plat for Bentley subdivision lot 6 and 7. The Providence City Planning Commission will review, discuss, and may take action on a request to amend a final plat for lot 6 and 7 of the Bentley subdivision located in a general area of 1103 South, 470 East Providence. And we have items attached there. Scarlett, would you like to bring us all up to date on the staff's position on these?
The applicant for this is Hal Andrews, and Mr. Andrews is in the audience with us, so you can ask questions. These two lots are in the single family traditional zone, SFT. The applicant would like to combine lots 6 and 7 to build a single family home in the center of the combined lots. The petitioner checked, and there are no utilities in the easement between the two lots. As far as our findings of fact go, we look at Utah Code Chapter 10.9A Part 6. We also look at our general plan and master plans. We consider Utah Code 10.9A 103 41, which is the municipal utility easement, and it defines what a municipal utility easement is, and it says it is not a protected utility easement or a public utility easement. And then Utah Code 54.327 defines what a protected utility easement is and what a public utility easement is. And we'll get why we put those in a few minutes. We'll talk about the importance of those definitions. We also consider Utah Code 10.9A 608, which is the subdivision requirements, amendments. And then Utah Code 10.9A 609, which talks about the land use authority's approval of vacation or of an amendment of a plat. And our conclusions are that we have enacted ordinances requiring that subdivision plat comply with the provisions of the municipality's ordinances and the provisions of Utah Code Title 10.9A 6. And excuse me, as far as our general plan and our master plan goes, the framework suggests this area be considered for a potential conservation zone. However, the county parcel zoning viewer has an important habitat layer and an agricultural protection layer, and there are no important habitat, no agricultural protection areas, layers or areas shown in this location, and it is not a wildland urban interface. So based on that, there isn't anything that we would need to be aware, to be cautious of on a conservation zone. There are 3 park designations in Providence City. There's a regional park, a neighborhood park, and a local park. This area of the city is outside the level of service for all 3 park designations. The park geographical distribution and analysis map shows the general southeast area of the city, except for the Hillcrest Park area, has a gap in park service. And then, but Ryan is diligently working on trying to locate properties that we can remedy some of those gaps in service. The park, open space, and urban trails map does not call for a trail in or adjacent to the development area, and the road has been improved as recommended by the transportation plan. There are no municipal utility easements in this proposed amendment. The legend on the proposed plat shows that dashed line, and then it has easement, and then in parentheses it has PUE, which is a public utility easement. So there is public utility easement, but no municipal utility easements. So we do not have to go through the vacating process of a municipal utility easement. Note 2 on the proposed plat talks about the easements. The easement will move with the new lot lines. There would be the 5-foot easement for the interior lots. And so that will move with the new lot lines. Utah Code 109A608. The applicant is the fee owner of the land, and the petition seeks to join 2 or more of the petitioner fee owner's contiguous lots. So a public hearing is not required. The land use authority approval of vacation or amended plat in 109A609. The planning commission is the land use authority for subdivision approvals and finds there's good cause for the vacation or code amendment. And then there's a comment in condition 1, and then no public street or municipal utility easement has been vacated or amended. And then 11.3.3 in the Providence City Code lists the requirements for a final plat. So then in our conditions, if the planning commission chooses to approve the amended plat, they must state good cause for the vacation or amendment. The city engineer will have to verify the boundary description. And during the construction of the home, the comments from Aaron Walker, Deputy Fire Marshal, letter dated June 6th, 2022 will need to be addressed. They don't need to be addressed at this time because they're more applicable to the actual site plan of the home. So we'll look at that with our site plan review. The staff will look at that with the site plan review and then make sure that it's followed up on with the building of the home. And then our final condition is that the applicant will continue to meet all relevant federal, state, county, and Providence City rules, laws, codes, ordinances. Approval of the city of any application or paperwork submitted does not alleviate the owners and or their agents from their responsibility to understand and conform to local, state, and federal laws. Providence City's approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated. So our report is that as long as you find good cause, you would be able to, if you choose to, you would be able to approve this request. On a side note, state code just recently changed, and at the city's option, the city can put into ordinance that combining of lots does not constitute an amended plat. So something to think about. If that's something you think maybe we should follow up on or not. That's the only one of there's a laundry list in there of what constitutes an amended plat. That's the only one they changed, and they didn't take it out of the list, but if a city chooses to, the city could do that. So.
I had a question on that. Absolutely. Most of these lot combinations, it's done to allow the owners of the property to use their property the way they want to. And I think the reason that the ordinance that's required here is you can't have a structure built across the lot line, so they have to combine them. Have you ever seen something in your experience? Because I haven't, but I'm wondering if you have, where there'd ever be a problem with having lots just combined and putting that in the ordinance so it can be done automatically.
We only had one situation that was kind of like that, but that's probably more reserved for an actual discussion about the lots. If you read what we have in our lot consolidation code, it talks about how if you're going to combine lots, the term adjacent kind of got us in trouble once. And so we need to make sure that we've got adequate width of those lots, that they truly are adjacent lots, and you're combining two pieces. And I can get into the whole thing during a discussion, or I can chat with you after and explain. But that's the only time I've seen it happen, was just too odd shaped. It was just an odd configuration that kind of caused a little bit of angst. But for the general most part, like you was seeing constantly throughout, it's just like Joe said, it is something that allows property owners to utilize their property better. But just something to keep in the back of your heads.
Scarlett, and the new information that came from the state regarding them, is that something that you could send to us, that we could look at it and see if we need to?
It's in the state code. Yes, I can
Okay.
send it to you.
That would be great. And
Sure.
we can decide if we need to address it at some point, and just to take care of it, see if there is something where we would look to recommend a change.
Yeah. Just something to think about.
Thank you.
There are times, I just pull up, there is times that you might have a parcel that look like they're adjacent and not a
Right.
problem. But at that point, this particular one, we'd have a sewer line between them. So it comes down and flows. And if there's a utility in there, then that would cause a problem. But that's why our process, would look for those. But there is times that there might be a utility already placed between those parcels, and we'd need to look that. That's why the first thing you did was to make sure there wasn't something already there. So
Typically, the lots would have, even the lot lines would have their setback, but there could be a EUV in there.
yeah, there could have already been a utility installed at
As
some
long as
point.
it's
But
installed, then we have to look at that. All right. Mr. Andrews would like to come up and tell us a little your thoughts, and if there's anything you'd like to add, or
Well, there's not a whole lot to add.
yeah,
I'm just trying to get two lots put together so I can build a house.
okay,
I put a house on the drawing board and I come up about 30 feet short in width with the lot.
yeah, of the one lot, so you've got the two lots.
Yeah.
Now you got all the extra room.
Yeah. 4 peasants out there or something.
Anybody, any questions that they'd like to ask? Okay. All right, thank you very much, Mr. Andrews, appreciate it. All right, I'll open it up for discussion here. If we've got any comments or thoughts or anything we need to look at on
I
it.
just echo the comment that Joe was alluding to, that this good cause for this is that it allows a property owner to exercise their private property rights. So in terms of fulfilling our obligation to find good cause, I would submit that.
Okay,
No other comments for me. I think it looks good.
yeah,
I'd move the question.
Second.
we have a motion to approve by Joe Chambers, a second by Tyler Riggs. Brian's still not on it.
It's just moving the question and closing
Closing it for debate.
Okay,
you still need a motion.
And we need to vote on closing the discussion.
all those in favor to close the discussion on it? Aye. Any opposed? Yes, just us.
I make a motion, Chairman, that we approve the amended final plat for Bentley subdivision lots 6 and 7, combination of lots 6 and 7, inclusive of the conclusions of law, the findings of fact, and the finding of good cause. And there's one that I'm missing. Conditions, and inclusive of the conditions as well. And the good cause, to restate, is that it is allowing a private property owner to exercise their private property rights.
Okay, we have a motion by Tyler Riggs and a second by Joe Chambers. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion carries. Thank you. Mr. Andrews.
Got a lot of land out there. How are you gonna water it?
Well, I've got a little bit more than I bargained for, but yeah.
Yeah, I've got a third of an acre that I'm growing trees on, so I can tell you, fruit trees grow good.
Good idea.
Enjoy it.
Okay, We will move on to item number 2, the Knoll subdivision phase 1 final plat. The Providence City Planning Commission will consider and may take action on a request to approve a final plat for the homes on the Knoll subdivision phase 1, a 31 lot residential subdivision located in the general area of 300 North Sarah Street. Scarlett, would you come on up and give us that summary?
So Sagecrest LLC is the applicant for this. Danny McFarland's the agent, and Danny is in the audience. And as we go over a couple of key issues on this, the Planning Commission approved the preliminary plat on May 11th, 2022. And this proposed final plat for phase 1 is consistent with the phasing plan that was approved with the preliminary plat. Again, we look at Utah Code Chapter 9 or Title 10, 9A, Part 6 for the subdivision ordinances. We consider our general plan and our master plans. We look at our water availability requirements. We look at this in 2 places, one at the preliminary plat and again at the final plat. And then we look down Providence City Code 1133 for our final plat requirements. If you notice, there's a bunch of check marks and a couple of red line items, and we'll talk about those in the conclusion. And then our conclusion, Providence City has enacted ordinances requiring that a subdivision plat comply with the provision of the municipal ordinances and the provisions of Utah Code Title 10, Chapter 9A, Section 6. In the general plan, the proposed final plat is consistent with the general plan and development of the surrounding areas. The Initiative 6 encourages housing options to meet the needs of all residents, or to meet the needs of residents of all ages, income level, family size, regardless of their stage in life. The framework map indicates this area is a neighborhood residential development, and it also has some area that could be considered for potential conservation zone. Again, the potential conservation zone, the county parcel and zoning viewer, there are no important habitat areas shown in this location, and it's not a wildland urban interface area. There is an ag protection area that's adjacent to this area, but that would not negatively impact the ability to build homes on it. It's just that an ag protection area, the people that live around that have to be respectful of the person's ability to farm and have agriculture on there. So, and then the Parks, Trails and Recreation Master Plan recommends the city consider acquiring additional parkland in this area. The plan also recommends the city consider roadside pathways in this area, and the transportation plan recommends striped bike lanes along Sarah Street, which the developer will do. In addition to the transportation plan, it shows the minor collector roads in this area. Now, one of the things, and I'll let Danny actually address this a little further. He talked to Ryan and I about it to some degree. 300 North was, as you can see on the plan, was on the transportation plan, which is the illustration on the left. It's a through street. However, due to topography, that's going to be difficult to achieve with the grade restrictions that we have on our street profiles. So in lieu of that, we're kind of substituting Sherwood to combine with 300 North to get it down to Sarah, and then where the topography will allow, along Sarah, there will be a jog, and then it will continue to the west where the topography will allow. So that's what the proposal is. The water availability requirements for the water dedication, the developer provided the information for the total water requirement. I just need to have him provide the information for just phase 1. And then we can get that in his application for development that the staff reviews and approves. And then the red comments in the findings of fact, actually, they're both things that are a little bit out of the developer's control. That's why we don't hold it up for it. The city engineer is the one that will need to provide the street addresses for the lots. And the city engineer will also verify the boundary description to make sure that it closes and everything properly. So our conditions, we'll need to address the conditions in red in the findings of fact. Aaron Walker submitted a letter dated June 10th that talks about future connectivity, grades steeper than 12%. That's part of the reason why we changed why 300 North doesn't go through like we had on the transportation plan. Talks about final site plans, and the second access will have to be free of storage obstructions of any kind. It talks about future connectivity into phase 2. The hydrants appear to be adequate, and then fire flow requirements will be enforced, and infrastructure should be designed to accommodate the size and construction types of the homes forecasted to be built within the development. And on that note, that's a site plan thing. It depends on how big the house is going to be, what fire flow requirements are. So we meet state minimums. We have the developer meet state minimums, and then if there's something different that is needed, the homeowner will have to mitigate. There's ways that they can mitigate, but they would do that as part of the site plan. As mentioned previously, steep road grades will likely inhibit the ability of the responding agencies to provide timely emergency services during times of winter weather and are strongly discouraged by the fire department. And I do think that the developer has worked really hard to get his road grades down to a very manageable position, but those will all be taken care of as we finish up with the construction drawings. So that's just a brief overview of Aaron's letter. It is in the staff report for people to look at in detail. And then our additional comments, if there's comments or conditions from the planning commission or other staff members, they'll need to provide the water requirement for phase 1. Prior to the plat being recorded, the construction plans must be approved and signed. The application for development and public improvement installation must be completed and signed. The declaration and grant of easement and maintenance agreement for stormwater must be completed and signed. And the water requirement must be dedicated or the fee in lieu paid. The declaration and grant of easement and maintenance agreement must be recorded with the final plat. Reason for that is because that agreement passes on to successors, purchasers of the lots. And so we want that recorded so that when title searches are done, that shows up. The applicant will continue to meet all relevant federal, state, county, Providence City rules, laws, codes, ordinances. Approval by the city of any application or paperwork submitted does not alleviate the owners and or their agents from their responsibility to understand and conform to local, state, and federal laws. Providence City's approval is not intended to and cannot be construed to allow any laws to be violated. And the illustration on the illustration on page 4 that shows the street illustrations, the one on the right, the black and white one, that is also showing the phasing line. It's that dark blue line that goes around, and you will see that phasing line for phase 1 looks just exactly like the final plat for the proposed final plat for phase 1.
Okay.
So,
can I ask a quick question?
Yep.
In looking at the letter from the fire marshal, and I think you may have answered it already, but just to confirm it, he mentions in there that the steep road grades would likely inhibit the ability of responding agencies to provide timely emergency service during times of winter weather and are strongly discouraged by the fire department, the steep road grades. And you mentioned there's been work going back and forth to get the grades down and that kind of stuff, and that will be a part of the final construction drawings when we get to that point. It'll have to come down so that, will we get another letter from the fire marshal that says those plans will meet and that it's taken
Max,
care of?
Max doesn't sign the construction drawings until they meet code. And so,
Okay,
that will, that's
that'll
where,
make sure we're covered for it.
Yeah.
I didn't
and,
want
there-
you to-
and our code does allow grades a little steeper than the fire marshal's office would like.
Yeah,
But we look at it and we're very careful where we allow those so that we can make sure of winter snow removal maintenance, things like that. It's not as big a problem in the months that are not snow months, but
Right.
during snow months, snow and ice months, that grade becomes a key player. So we do work really careful to make sure that the steeper grades are limited and shorter stretches, that type of thing. But Danny can address that a little bit as
well,
well.
I don't want people, homeowners to be able to come back on the city that we had been given a warning and we didn't make sure that
Oh, we work our best to make
Yeah,
sure that it's
so-
safe.
that's what if I understand right, that will continue. It doesn't need to be something that's finalized right now,
Right.
but that it will in the construction. Thank you, Scarlett, very much.
Okay.
Anybody, any questions for Scarlett? I should have asked that before.
Got a question, I don't know if this is the right time to ask it, but 300 north here, where it meets Sarah Street. Is there fairly sizable elevation or slope there? At that point?
On the west side, if they have to come down to a 4% grade, 100 feet from the intersection. So
Okay,
does that answer your question?
yeah, the reason I ask is that I know of another intersection that looks a lot like this. And this lot that has the road feeding right into the center of that lot.
Mhm.
This past February, a car came through that intersection. Very house and went in between two houses.
Yeah.
But there, if there's some way to have that intersection have a barrier of some kind, or something that would block a car that's out of control from going into someone's home. I see that, and I have experienced that because it's my neighbor's house and my house. I'm in between the two houses, and a roundabout in that area would likely stop a car out of control and protect the home, the property. But I mean, it's just something that I've experienced and it looks like a concern to me.
Which lot are you saying is at risk? Lot 1 or lot 36 or like?
I can't see, if you look at the black and white one that has the streets on it, see 300. Down further.
It's lot 32.
Lot 30.
I can enlarge it, but I can't.
Oh.
It's like lot 32. So
36.
It's labeled as 300 north on the black and white. It's
Well, right here.
but
So
on
this
the
is-
plat, it's 250 north.
So it looks like 300 north continues on across Sarah Street. There's not a property there. I was looking at the other
The other map up above.
map above.
Talking about lot 32.
So I was looking at this other one with the blue line
Yeah.
around it.
Oh,
And the street looks like it goes into a lot, and I can't enlarge it and still
It's-
read.
it's lot 32, and it
Lot
actually
32.
starts out at 300 north and then it
Back down.
goes down to 250. So that
Okay, but-
street curves.
So when we look at this other map, then the problem is solved, is that right?
No, but we actually don't have it in our code the way you're talking about, so we'd have to work with that.
Oh, I see.
We try and take care of that through the
I see, 250.
elevation coming
Yep.
into the intersection
Okay,
to allow.
right.
to
Lot
be more
32
level.
that would be the issue.
thank you.
Yes,
I'm with you
I
now.
was on the wrong map, but I couldn't see the lot number, so, yes. I mean, that's just a concern that we ought to address early.
Thank you.
Scarlett, is the Sherwood Drive, will it interconnect with Spring Creek Parkway, or will it eventually dead end at one of the other?
Danny can answer that.
Danny McFarland.
Thank you, Dan.
So Sherwood continues north into Shoreline Estates, which then connects into a phase of Providence Hollow, which goes west to Sarah Street, and then Sarah Street would be the connection to Spring Creek Parkway.
Again, that's a master plan road that had to change just a bit because of such a dramatic elevation change. And so instead of being able to go straight through and connect with Spring Creek Parkway, it's got to take a bit of a jog.
And that's an existing connection to Sherwood and Shoreline that's already built. Just to your question, on 250 north, that, you know, like as Scarlett said, as the road approaches that intersection, it flattens out to 4% for 100 feet. And even before that, that section of roadway is well under, I think it's right at 8%, even further than 100 feet out coming into that intersection. So it's pretty mellow grade coming into that intersection. And plus, I mean, it's the type of thing that at preliminary plat, that would be a good time to talk about reconfiguring, you know, roadways and maybe a roundabout or something. But at this point, pre-plat's been kind of like set in stone, which entitles us, I guess. And then we follow that pre-plat in each phase as we go on. So we're kind of down the road a little ways, I guess.
All right. And I think as those construction plans go along and as we see that, everybody will sign off on those things.
Yeah.
So I agree. And all right. Anything you want to add to what
No.
Scarlett's presented to us?
No, I think, you know, on the slope, your slope question, I mean, the city code says 15% for short sections, and it's really almost impossible to design roadways. I mean, the city code says 8% and then 15% for shorts, you know, unsustained sections. It's really difficult on a bench area to design roadways with 8%. So, you know, we'll kind of sprinkle in a 15%, you know, maybe a 50 foot or 100 foot section that's 15%, then it'll level back out to 8%. So when we're talking more than 12, it's a very short section. And so anyway, I just wanted to clarify that.
Is there a maximum where that 15% is allowed in the code?
No.
There isn't. So as long as it's approved by construction plans
Well,
and
there's-
things.
Well,
15% is the maximum.
No, I'm
For,
talking for the distance of that grade.
yes, there is a maximum,
Yeah.
So
I think it's 100 feet.
150.
Yeah.
150 feet,
Yeah.
something like that. So,
Yeah.
okay. All right. Anybody, any other questions for Danny? No? Okay. Thank you very much. I appreciate it. I'll open it for discussion now amongst the commission. Discuss anything.
For me, as nothing has changed from the preliminary plat, so I have no, we liked it then. I like it now.
And I think all the issues, anything that there was before is being addressed, has been addressed or is shown to continue, will be in some of the other phases of development. Anybody, anything else?
We're probably running out of space over that way. But the concern that Bob has expressed is a concern I've dealt with down in Pleasant View City with a gravel pit that I represent. Independence hauling out of the pit. It starts out at 11% grade and then turns to a 7% grade and goes by Weaver High School, comes to a dead end, and 3 independent trucks have come down the hill and lost control. Sped past Weaver High School. And fortunately, I came up with a solution by suggesting that the city council put a mandatory brake check at the stop and no shifting on the hill and put a speed limit on it. I hope that's good.
Yeah.
Garden cities and other good.
Yeah.
But this is a bit different here. Yeah, I guess a property owner might look at putting in some decorative bollards if they were really concerned about it, but
Yeah.
Yeah, but it is a concern. And I just expressed that to the engineer here as we're working on it. But you are right. The preliminary plat was approved and it does give you a time. So,
Anything else? Then I'll close the discussion portion and entertain a motion in regards to item number 2.
trying to pull it up. So I'd make a motion. Get to the agenda, gentlemen. To approve the final plat for the homes on the Knolls subdivision, phase 1, a 31 lot residential subdivision located in the general area of 300 North Sarah Street, subject to the findings of fact, conclusions of law, conditions set forth in staff's report, and particularly addressing the concerns of the fire marshal and the red comments in the staff's report.
second that motion.
Thank you. I have a motion by Joe Chambers and a second by Tyler Riggs. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? No. Motion carries. Thank you for approval. If we have no items under administrative action, no study items tonight, just prior to closing, thank you, Danny, appreciate it. I wanted to, Mayor asked me to remind everyone that they were invited to an open house over here at the Riverwood Conference Center by Equity Real Estate in regards to the Highland subdivision. It is from 7 to 8 tonight for them to show and answer questions or anything about that development. And that's on the south end of Providence, isn't it?
Southeast,
Southeast.
very southeast corner.
Okay. All right. So just wanted to make you aware of that. And
Is anyone else on the commission attending?
I'm going to go over there after this.
I'm unable to attend, but if you would be willing to send us a summary of
Sure.
what you saw, and I sure appreciate your input on that.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it. Well, if there's no other business,
Make a motion to close this meeting. Then we adjourn.
we have a motion to close. Do we have a second? Second. Motion by Tyler Riggs, second by Joe Chambers. Motion carries. Thank you very much for everyone.